Hey traders, John Howell here. Today we're going to be looking at the just a bit of a market update across the board and what's really going on right now. Some important things to be focusing on while going through this really crazy volatile towards the end of this year, right? Which was totally unexpected, but what's the most important thing we should be focusing on? Let's get straight into it. Don't place a trade based on what you'll see in this video because there is no guarantees of making a profit in the market. It takes you a long time to become a good trader. So this video here is just to educate you to become a much better trader. Alrighty traders, so let's get straight into it. I also want to talk about the fear and greed index as well too. So this obviously this fear and greed index that's on here. So I want to talk about that as well too, and also about some things that I'm noticing when it comes to the comparison of all the different markets and what that may be telling us. So firstly, I want to start off with looking at the markets here, and here is the big thing, okay, traders. The big thing about these markets is, let me take everything off the screen here. If I bring up the last 6 months worth of data, okay. The big thing here when it comes to looking at these markets is what we need to be doing is it's important to try to, the market's always telling us a story, okay? And the story is really in the trend analysis, okay? And the thing is this, is that a lot of the times the market can do pullbacks like this here, or even like what we're getting here, or even through here as well too. But as long as we make higher, low, and so on and so forth, right? Then that's the most important part. Because the most important part to an upward trend is a higher low, right? So we have a higher low, higher low, higher low. So that's the most important part to an upward trend. The big thing that you want to keep an eye for is that a lot of the times this market can give you a pullback in the markets, and what we're getting right now is a very volatile, choppy up and down. This is now getting volatile through here, and this is actually what's called a resting phase. It's going to be really interesting to see how all this plays out. Let me just bring up the last. Let me actually just zoom right in on the S&P 500. You can see here. Look at all this here. So you can see that we're really just developing this sideways range here. This could be a catapult to the upside. I'm not saying it is because no one knows, right? But a lot of the times what the market will do is the market will give you a bit of a volatility time phase or a resting phase, just like back here. So notice it back here. Notice how we just went sideways for a while. And after the sideways, but the sideways was also volatile. This is also called a time phase, or what I call an energy building phase. And notice after this phase, when we broke out, that's when we went for a big run. So now we're getting what? Now we're getting the same thing as well too right now. Maybe we get a bit more as well too. So the big thing that I'm watching out for is this going to be another one of this? Let me explain it. So here, market's just going sideways but very volatile. Same thing here, right? We're getting this volatility through here. So the big thing I'm watching out for is over the next, say, couple of weeks is that if we continue through here and then break up above these significant highs, that tells me what? That tells me we've actually spent not only just this part through here, but let me actually change this color. We've also spent a considerable amount of time really just going sideways. What does that mean to the markets? That means that when the market does this, it's telling us that we could be getting ready for a very good, we could be getting ready for a very big move, right? But we need to wait for the breakout first. I'll give you an example. So I remember trading this back in, I'm pretty sure it was 2019. Yeah, 2019. Let's go back to 2019. Right here. Look at this here. Remember this big run that we had right towards the end of the year. But look what's actually going on beforehand. No, remember I said before about we get these volatile periods and so on and so forth. Well, look at this. If we really just measure from there to there, notice how there was really not much going on through here. And in fact, let me actually just zoom in on that a bit more again. Let me actually open this up a bit more. Notice that. Look at this here. Notice how there was really, that was that point through there. Notice how there was really just not much going on through here, right? But there was a lot of volatility periods, right? We went down, got a volatile, came out, came down, sideways, and then we started to break out. So the market loves to do this, especially when we go sideways volatile. I'll give you another example. Look at it back here, right? Notice here. Notice how we did what? Look at this here. So notice how we went sideways, but the sideways was what? It was volatile within this within this sort of, sideways range. And then guess what? We spent a bit of time and then we went for a very nice move to the downside. So right now, as we speak, we could be developing this here once again. And just like we did back here, again, very, not the exact same, but very similar. And we spent a lot of time going sideways through here. Not the exact same. That's probably more like the exact same. And then you went for a run. But look at this here. As soon as we started the breakout, that's when we started to go for a big move. Yes, we had the crash happen after and so on and so forth. But I'm talking about like what's going on right now in the markets. And the two most important things I'm focusing on is one, the section we're in right now, okay, or where are we right now? The first thing is good old trend analysis, and I want you to be looking on the big charts, right? Most people don't focus on the weekly charts, and it's a very, 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 very big. It's a thing that it's an important thing to look at the weekly charts as well too. And the reason what I'm looking for on the weekly charts is that these pullbacks here we get for a month. Guess what? As you can see, they're just pullbacks before we go low. This could be just another higher low before we do this and then go for another big move. Makes sense? Because as you see, look at all we're doing through here. And remember I said before, look at this back here. This is actually happening on the weekly chart. Look at that. See that section through there? Notice how we go sideways but volatile. And then when we break out, we go for a run. Is there any more that I can notice through there? Let me actually just see. So I'm just, and again, traders, what I'm doing is I'm just trying to help you. Firstly, the first thing I'm looking for on this weekly chart is just where is the trend, okay? Lows, higher lows, higher lows, higher lows, higher lows, higher lows. You can see every time we've got these pullbacks, even though they have been maybe 6 8%, so on and so forth, even this point through here. So even if we do get a bit more of a pullback through here, even if we come down through here, and then we start to do that, right? The trend has not changed. Even if we come back down to a double bottom, the trend hasn't changed yet. It's just a big double bottom around the 4,200. That could actually just scare people out. But remember I said before, right? Look at this here. So the big thing I'm focusing on the daily chart is you see this pit through, see how we went sideways and then broke down. So look at this here, sideways and then a big move afterwards. Not much going on there. Sideways, a big move afterwards. You might even have that bit through there as well too, right? So what are we getting right now? We're getting what? We're getting that sideways, very volatile time. So my big thing I'm focusing on right now is when I'm looking at these big weekly charts, is that these charts here. If I go back to my daily charts now, you can see I'm noticing, and I'm not noticing, but I'm keeping an eye on. Let me go back to say 1 year worth of data. Come on now, software. All right, there we go. All right, so we've got 1 year worth of data here. So I'm really watching to see what is this here. Because if all of this is just something like this back here, notice how we got that not the exact same, right? Actually, wow, that actually may be the exact same. I just noticed that. Look at this here. So we had the pullback, we had up, had a bit of volatile period, and then we may break out. We had a pullback, come up, had a bit of volatile period, we may actually get the breakout. So that actually looks maybe almost similar, right? And then we had a breakout. So the big thing we need to focus on here is when looking at this absolute short-term, these short-term charts here, is the big thing is this resistance line all through here. This is that big resistance line. You can see we've had a lot of problems breaking up, but we're also, if you notice the absolute short-term levels, we're also developing in a very, very tight triangle pattern. I've got a couple of main trend lines through here, but the big one, notice this one here, right? So we have the starter point down through here. And in fact, if I take everything off the screen here for a minute, and let me see if I can create another power trend line here. And let me just, oh geez, look at that. And now I'm just gonna do something like this. Let me go back to the daily charts now. So I'm just gonna go back to the daily charts. So the big thing I'm focusing on, guys, this is just what's happening right now, okay? This is on a technical level basis. So on a technical level, if I go back now and have a look at the last year, all right, and then we go through that there. Look what's happening here, right? We're squeezing up into a triangle pattern. So this could be I'm not saying it is, traders, okay? I'm not saying it is. I personally believe with all the fundamentals behind these markets that this is just a bit of a volatile period, maybe even a bit more of a pullback before we see a big move up. And the thing that I'm looking at right now is that this is now spending a lot of time going sideways. And when the market goes sideways like this, when the market does this, it's getting ready, it's building energy. And the longer it goes, like have you seen charts Like for example, you know, if you see things like, I'll give you an example like Bitcoin. Right, let's just use Bitcoin as an example. Look at this here. Notice how really from 2000 and sort of really the middle of 2019 through to the start of 2021. Notice how we went sideways. We didn't do much, right? And then we broke out. Now that's obviously a long extended period of time. The longer this goes, the harder the breakout. The longer this goes, the harder the breakout. Look what happened with gold, right? If we go back to gold on the weekly chart, look what happened with gold on the weekly chart. What did gold do? Gold spent a lot of time doing what? Just absolutely, really not much. Just up, down, up, down, up, down. It didn't really go anywhere, right? But then guess what happened? We had almost 100% move to the upside. That's what we're getting right now. So if we go back to the S&P 500 and we can see, if we zoom right in now, we go back to our daily charts. Now you can see, okay, this is what's going on right now. Now this is what's happening right now. Obviously things can change as the market changes. But the big key I'm looking for is that if this does hold this in the triangle pattern and we start to get a big breakout, maybe we're going to fill this in for the rest of this year. And then maybe next year we're going to break out and go for a big run. If we do, traders, okay, if we do continue to build time through here, meaning just a sideways range through here, and we continue to build it, then what's likely to happen? Now, this is the if scenarios, okay, traders, because I don't know what's going to happen, and no trader does, but we need to look out, okay, we're building a pattern here. So if we do this and we break out like that, what does that tell me? That tells me we've now done a lot of nothing. And a lot of nothing is a resting phase and what we call an energy building phase. So all that there tells me if we do get a breakout and we get more of like this, moving in towards the end of this year or even the start of next year, then we should see a pretty strong move up from here. Just like we did back here, we're probably likely to get that as well in the market. So that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm noticing there, guys. When it comes to the markets, we are squeezing up into a triangle pattern right now. But right now we're getting a very, very, very volatile time, and that could actually mean something. Now, to look at the big picture through here, I really want to share something with you. Let me bring up the finance stock Google first, and the first thing I want to focus on is actually, let's just bring up the SPY, right? So let's actually bring up the SPY. Then I want to compare that to the QQQ. Okay, let's compare that to the here we go. All right, Dow Jones. And then I also want to get up the IWM, which is the Russell 2000 here, right? So I want to compare this. And let's actually bring up the last 6 months. And the big thing I really want to share with you is that you can really see that there's a very big correlation between a lot of these markets. Let's actually bring up, why isn't that coming? Why isn't that working? You know what? Let's just do this here. Let's just bring up compared to the... there we go, that'll do. Right, the DIA, which is the ETF for the Dow Jones. If you're wondering what the ETF is for the Dow Jones, then yeah, you've got that one there, right? So if we look at the last year, we can see that the big winner out of all of this really is the S&P 500. The S&P 500 is really the leader out of all of this. You can see this is where we started a year ago, basically at the start of the year. And you can see as we've gone through choppy, towards we can see here, right, the Russell 2000 really led the way initially. So we really had initially, we initially had, let's actually zoom in a bit more through here. Last 6 months, right? So you can see, the last 1 year. Did that just change color? It did too. Okay, cool. Yeah, right. So you can see initially this blue is the Russell. The initial phase is that the Russell was outpacing a lot of these markets, right? So while the S&P was only up about 10% for the first couple of months, you can see the Russell got up to about 20% increase, and then it pulled back towards the other markets, and then you can see they really stayed closely through through the middle of this year, but then they started to break away. And then who actually started to break away? This dark blue line here is the S&P 500. The S&P 500 came up, had a pullback with everything. And you can see how they all of them pretty much came in sync through the last 6 months through here. So the last 6 months, you can see how that we just had a lot of the index. Now the light blue, that's the Russell there. You can see the Russell really has been pretty lackluster when it comes to the performance. But you can see, like, as the market started to rise here in November, you can see that also a lot of these other markets started to rise. Also, same the Russell and with this pullback here on the Russell pulled back a lot stronger than these other markets. So this here tells me that the S&P 500 very closer to the QQQ, but the S&P 500 right now is the strongest one out of all of them. And the Dow Jones is still being pretty flat as well too. So that is a very, very, very big divergence through there, especially when you saw a lot of the year, especially all through this period through here. They stayed pretty close. The S&P sort of popped out a little bit more, but they stayed pretty close. So that divergence there could be a bit of a warning sign about what's likely to come, because the obviously the top 2,000 stocks are getting pulled away there. So we're getting a very big divergence through there, and it's just really, really interesting to see that. So that may be a divergence which may pull the market down a little bit more. Or what we may see is this actually getting a pullback, and we may get a sort of a slingshot move with the Russell to catch up to the S&P. If the S&P breaks out above that resistance line, then what's likely to happen is that this Russell 2000 is probably likely to make some very big moves coming out of this level through here. And the last thing I want to share with you guys is this fear and greed index. As you know, you want to buy when people are fearful, and you want to sell when people are greedy. By the way, you want some watches? Sell when people are greedy. Okay, so I actually bought my Fitbit watch from Kogan. That's why they're remarketing my ass right now. So I just recently bought a new Fitbit. Fitbit 5. I really like the new Fitbit 5. Do you guys use the Fitbit? If so, let me know what you think. I actually really like it. But what's happening right now? We're getting a bit of a fear. We're still getting a lot of fear right now. And the really interesting thing is that even though we're getting a lot of fear, right? So let me just bring this over here. Even though we're getting a lot of fear, and we're still pretty close, right near the highs of what's going on in the markets here. So it's squeezing up into a very, very, very big tight triangle pattern through here. Very tight triangle pattern. But the big thing, guys, the big thing I'm looking at for here is that we're starting to get into a lot of extreme. Look at this here. Net new 52-week high lows of the New York Stock Exchange. Obviously, the Russell, that's obviously been dragged down now. You can see that things are very, very, very sort of down here with the extreme fear. The number of stocks hitting 52 weeks lows exceed the number of hitting highs at the lowest range, indicating extreme fear. Last change November 29. Updated 17. Okay, cool. All right. So it looks like that it's updated just recently, which is good. Okay, cool. So, and that's obviously, you can see that's indicative, right? You see what's happening with once again, if I go back to last month here, or the last 6 months, you can see here, same for the Russell, right? We've got the Russell 2000. That's been pretty much pulling down. So that's what really, that's all, you can see that within the Russell 2000, that would be getting hit pretty hard with that. Now, the big thing I'm looking out for, traders, is that even though we're developing this sort of pattern in the markets, which is it could be a bullish pattern. Again, we just want to make sure that we stay above these trend lines. We can stay above these trend lines and continue filtering this section through. Then this actually would be pretty strong breakout, because we're back down through here, which is the extreme fear. Now, what's likely to happen is that if we do continue to see a bit more of a pullback through here, then the market's going to do something like this. And if we get back down to here again, like where it's going to be really, 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 really extreme fear, the last 2 times that's happened in the last sort of 3 or 4 years, or as long as I can see here, that was as you can see, it got right down the bottom here when people are really, really, really extreme fearful. And guess what? That was an amazing buying opportunity. That's when people are really, 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 really fearful. And guess what? That was the best time to be buying what? Buying stocks. You know that, right? So we're actually getting very close to that point once again. And we very rarely do we actually even get down to here. You know, most of the time we get here and then we have a bounce. Here and we have a bounce. You can see even through this section through here, which is 2020, and you can see we actually had a lot of points through here. So if we do get a bit more of a pullback, guys, and we get some of this, that's going to be like elastic band where the market's pulling back, pulling back, pulling back, and then we're probably going to do something like that because this thing's probably going to do that again. And then away we go. So that's what I really wanted to share with you today. We're developing this triangle pattern through here, and it does look like that moving into the rest of this year. It's going to be really interesting to see what actually happens through there. So there we go, traders. Hope you enjoyed this section. Traders, I'm running a webinar today, and on that webinar, I'm going to share with you all the details to my trading system, how I actually trade the market. So if you're looking for a good trading system, a trading pattern, then you're going to learn that. I'm going to show you exactly how I scan the markets to find the trades. Awesome things that I've learned over the last 17 years of trading the markets. And also, I'm going to be offering a 70% discount to my coaching program as an end of year sale. So if that sounds interested to you, then first link in the description, guys, click on that, and I will see you in the next video.